For years, Paul Teutul Senior and the American Chopper crew looked unstoppable, building custom motorcycles that turned a small New York workshop into a global name. But behind the famous arguments and the television spotlight, their world was slowly falling apart. As debts mounted, lawsuits escalated, and family ties snapped one by one, the men who once ruled the custom bike industry found themselves fighting to hold on to anything at all. Today, each of them lives a life far removed from their television fame. And what happened after the cameras shut off reveals a story more painful than the show ever allowed the world to see. The fall of Paul Teutul Senior. When American Chopper exploded onto television in 2003, Paul Teutul Senior seemed like the kind of man nothing could break. His presence filled every room. The thick mustache, the sleeveless shirts, the crossed arms, the explosive temper that became the show's signature. For years, fans watched him turn bare steel into rolling works of art, and he made it look effortless, commanding a booming New York workshop that thrived under the sound of grinders, welders, and barking orders. It appeared, at least on the surface, that Paul Senior had built an empire too strong to ever fall. But behind the scenes, the numbers were quietly stacking against him. As the cameras captured fame, the books captured decline. By the mid-2000s, long after the show's peak, Orange County Choppers was no longer the unstoppable powerhouse it once was. The fan base still existed, but the custom motorcycle boom that fueled the series had cooled. Reality television had moved on, and Paul Senior, who once stood at the center of a multi-million-dollar brand, was left juggling rising bills, lawsuits, fading revenue, and the consequences of years of explosive decisions. The breaking point arrived in February 2018 when Paul Senior filed for Chapter 13 bankruptcy, a public admission that the decline had become impossible to hide. Court documents painted a devastating picture. He listed $1.7 million in debt owed to nearly 50 different creditors. His assets, once worth millions, had dwindled. His monthly income sat at $15,700, but his monthly expenses reached $12,612, leaving barely enough to survive. It was a financial life lived on the edge, a far cry from the booming business viewers once saw on television. Even the crown jewel of his personal success, the massive Montgomery, New York mansion featured in episodes, could not be saved. The property fell into foreclosure, and in 2019, he sold it for $1.5 million, far less than the more than $3 million he had once hoped for. The sale included everything he could spare: tools, equipment, even farm animals. It was not a business decision, but a survival move. A painful reminder that the empire was crumbling piece by piece. But the financial troubles didn't stop with unpaid loans. In 2017, his business partner, Thomas Durbasher, sued him, alleging that Paul Senior misused $3 million meant to launch a new television project. Court filings described troubling behavior: delayed filming so he could go fishing, unapproved spending, refusing to work with team members, and quietly moving money to pay other people, including his son Mikey, without the investor's knowledge. Whether mistakes, miscommunication, or mismanagement, the fallout was the same. Another lawsuit, another blow to an already sinking foundation. Then came 2019 when a federal judge found Paul Senior in contempt of court for failing to pay $17,000 to JTM Motorsports for work on his Corvette ZR1. On top of that, he owed the town of Crawford over $151,000 in back taxes plus $21,300 in credit card debt. Each new legal issue added another crack to the structure he once controlled with absolute authority. By the time March 2020 arrived, Orange County Chopper's original New York headquarters was effectively finished. The massive building that once hosted celebrity clients, corporate sponsors, and television crews was emptying out. Paul Senior packed up what remained and moved everything he had left to Clearwater, Florida, opening a smaller-scale OCC roadhouse and museum. It wasn't the empire he once ruled, but it was something familiar, something he could still build with his hands. Today, at over 70 years old, Paul Senior keeps working. He appears on YouTube, meets fans, and stays connected to motorcycle culture. But the noise, fame, and power of the old days are gone. The downfall of Orange County Choppers didn't just cost him money. It cost him the world he built, the legacy he imagined, and the place where his voice once echoed like command. The man who once led the loudest shop on television now works in a quieter space trying to rebuild from the pieces left behind. Paul Teutul Junior: success, separation, and a battle for survival. For many fans, Paul Teutul Jr. was the creative soul of American Chopper. The designer who could take a rough idea and shape it into a motorcycle that felt almost sculpted. But behind the stunning builds and the tension-filled arguments with his father, Paul Jr.'s life was headed toward the same financial cliffs that would later shake the Teutul family. The turning point came in 2008 when a heated argument filmed for the show ended with Paul Sr. firing his own son. Junior still owned 20% of Orange County Choppers, and that ownership sparked a legal war inside the family. Paul Sr., determined to force him out completely, triggered a buyout clause that allowed him to purchase Junior's stake. But the appraiser hired by Paul Sr. valued the 20% share at $0, a move that shocked viewers and angered Paul Jr. The case went to court, and in December 2010, a judge ruled that the buyout terms were never clearly defined, making the clause unenforceable. Though he kept his ownership, the relationship was destroyed. In 2009, he attempted a fresh start with Paul Jr. Designs, moving to New Jersey and rebuilding a brand separate from his father. For a time, it worked. Corporations like Microsoft, Cadillac, and Mercedes-Benz commissioned custom builds. His designs appeared on magazines, shows, and promotional events. But the custom motorcycle industry was shrinking and demand slowed. The money that once flowed easily during the height of American Chopper no longer kept pace with the business's expenses. By March 2018, Paul Jr. filed for Chapter 13 bankruptcy, listing around $1.8 million in assets, including a mansion, and debts nearly as high, including over $51,000 in unpaid taxes. Although he continued building motorcycles and attending industry events, the empire he once imagined collapsed under financial pressure and the legacy of the family feud. Today, Paul Jr. focuses on selective high-end builds and judging competitions. His shop remains active, but far smaller than the empire he once hoped to lead. Despite the challenges, he rebuilt a quieter life centered around family and controlled growth. The bitter split from his father shaped everything that came afterward, leaving scars that neither fame nor fortune could erase. Mikey Teutul addiction, lawsuits, and a fight for redemption. During American Chopper's run, Mikey Teutul provided levity that balanced the intensity between Paul Sr. and Paul Jr. While his family clashed, Mikey joked, lightened the mood, and gave viewers someone to relate to. But the person fans saw on screen was struggling behind the scenes. Addiction had crept into his life slowly, turning from a coping mechanism into a destructive force. As Mikey's drinking escalated, his presence on the show diminished. Episodes aired without him. Fans began asking questions, unaware of the private battles that were consuming him. Eventually, even Paul Sr., known for his tough exterior, could not ignore the impact Mikey's addiction was having on both the family and the business. In a painful decision, he removed Mikey from Orange County Choppers entirely. Faced with losing the shop, his role on the show, and the stability he once relied on, Mikey reached a breaking point. He checked himself into rehab, confronting the addiction that had nearly taken everything from him. But even as he rebuilt his life, legal troubles came next. In 2019, photographer Scott Gunnell sued Mikey Paul Sr. and Orange County Choppers for copyright infringement. Images Gunnell had taken in 2013 appeared in multiple OC promotions, Facebook posts, television segments, merchandise like $19.95 t-shirts and $39.99 hoodies without proper credit or permission. On February 18, 2020, a federal judge ruled in the photographer's favor, ordering Paul Sr. to pay $258,484 in damages. The ruling was yet another blow to a family already drowning in financial struggles. Meanwhile, Mikey's own finances suffered. He had purchased a home from his mother in 2004 for $550,000 only to sell it in 2009 for $460,000, taking a $90,000 loss. Over time, his net worth dwindled from around $2 million to roughly $1 million. Yet, Mikey pushed forward. He returned to OC in a smaller role, handling social media and minor tasks. He launched FarQ products, selling homemade gourmet pasta sauces, and opened an art gallery in Montgomery. Slowly, he rebuilt a life not rooted in television fame, but in personal recovery and creativity. His story became one of the quietest but most meaningful comebacks among the Chopper crew. Vinny, Rick, Cody, and Jason, the crew that held the shop together. While the Teutul family dominated headlines, the most skilled hands inside Orange County Choppers belonged to the builders who worked quietly behind them. Their stories reveal how fame, financial collapse, and the changing motorcycle market affected everyone tied to the show. Vinny DiMartino, one of the most respected builders in the shop, left OC in August 2007 after 5 years. His departure became infamous when Paul Sr. coldly stated, "Everyone's replaceable." Vinny partnered with Cody Connolly to launch V-Force Customs, and the shop quickly attracted clients. But the 2008 financial crisis crushed the custom bike market. Few people could afford high-end builds, and by 2013, Force closed. Vinny sold equipment, shut down operations, and opened Diem Martino Motorsports, repairing cars and trucks instead of designing choppers. His estimated net worth today is around $1 million, a modest figure compared to his TV days, but built quietly and honestly. Rick Petco spent 13 years commuting from Pennsylvania to OC, earning $13,000 for each episode he appeared in on top of his salary. But the long hours, the constant travel, and the chaos inside the shop weighed heavily on his life. In 2016, Rick walked away. He moved back to Pennsylvania, joined Pocono Mountain Harley-Davidson, and later opened his own business crafting custom knives and wedding bands under RPD & Company. He traded TV fame for stability, returning to a life where work and family could coexist. Cody Connolly, the prodigy who joined OC at age 14, became the youngest star of American Chopper. But by 2007, he sued Paul Senior and the shop for using his image without permission and failing to give him the custom-built Cody project bike he was handed on screen. The lawsuit sought $250,000 and settled quietly in 2011. Cody left the industry entirely, launching Rebel Ranch Excavation in Pine Bush, New York. Today, he lives far from the spotlight, focused on family and practical work. Jason Pohl, the designer who joined in 2004, brought digital artistry, but faced harsh criticism from fans and colleagues. His futuristic sketches were often mocked, and he struggled with being portrayed as arrogant. After OC's bankruptcy filing in 2018, Jason gradually stepped back and officially left in 2020. He moved to Florida in 2021 and works as a SolidWorks ambassador with an estimated net worth of $700,000. His chapter ended quietly, far from the noise of the OC shop. Daniel Teutul, legal turmoil, and the collapse of the empire. Beyond the cast members viewers saw on television, the most dramatic legal blow to the Teutul family came from a son who was never part of the show at all. Daniel Teutul, Paul Senior's second oldest child. In 2004, Daniel took over the family's original business, Orange County Iron Works. But what followed became one of the most damaging events in the Teutul business legacy. In 2007, bankruptcy trustee Thomas Gova filed a detailed complaint accusing Daniel and other Teutul family members of transferring valuable equipment, employees, and accounts from the original company into a newly formed business, Orange County Iron Works LLC, without paying fair value. The claim alleged the move was fraudulent and deliberately designed to leave creditors with nothing. When the case concluded in December 2008, Daniel, then only 32 years old, was ordered to pay $500,000 without second.